Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this light that you see right here in my hand and that you saw throughout the intro. This is the Streamlight TLR-7 weapon light, and it's obviously designed to be sort of a carry type weapon light, but we'll get into that in a little bit later on. But this one here, as I'm doing the review anyway, it actually isn't formally announced. So I'm going to time this review with Streamlight's announcement, so that way when all the forums and Instagram pages and stuff are going wild with news of this, you guys will actually get a usable review with data in it that you can use to sort of make your mind up on the light a little bit better than you could from, you know, the ads and stuff that are going to be out there getting shared the same day this video is. So it's, you know, pre-production, so I don't have all the street details on it yet, but I do have the manufacturing details, which we'll get into here in just a second. But what we're going to do first is step outside, take a look at the beam comparison with this light and a couple other lights, see sort of how it stacks up in terms of output, because this is a 500 lumen light, which is very impressive for the size, in my opinion. So we'll check out the beam comparison, see how it all looks, and go into the details, show you some up close stuff, how it works, how it mounts, all that stuff. And at the end, we'll wrap it up with what I think of it overall. For those of you new to the channel, where that wood fence meets the metal fence is probably 45 feet away-ish, and the trees back there are about 55 feet away-ish. So just to give you kind of an idea of what you're looking at. Now the beam pattern that you're seeing here is from the TLR7. You guys can see it has a pretty balanced pattern overall. Has, of course, somewhat of a hot spot here in the middle, but if I, you know, pull this light all the way away, you can see it's pretty dark out here. And as I start to bring the light back into the screen, you guys can see that spill is pretty far out. I mean, the hot spot here is off camera and it's still illuminating that fence. If I cover it up with my hand there, you guys can see that's what it looks like without the light. So that light spill is still coming out there all the way on the edge. So that is a very good spill for a weapon light. You just don't see them very often that are that wide. So I think that's a good thing, particularly for a pistol anyway. I'll give you good situational awareness. Now to give you a comparison, right here is the Streamlight TLR1HL. So this one here is the 800 lumen version. It's got a hotter hotspot, as you guys can see. It's got a little bit of a different sort of brightness to it, a different white level. It's a little bit hotter, and the spill is definitely not quite as dramatic as it is there on the 7. This one's definitely got more throw to it for sure, more candela there in the middle. What you guys are looking at right now is the beam pattern from the Inforce APLc. I think this is one of the competitors out there in the market for it in terms of size, and then you guys can see the output difference here. It's kind of got two different rings, so it has the inner ring or the hotspot right there on that corner, and then you guys can see the edge there as it comes along the fence. So the spill is just very different in terms of the way it's reflected by the reflector in the light. And again, just for comparison sakes, here's the Streamlight TLR7 again. Definitely seems to have an output advantage and also a little bit more spill there. But this one here might have more throw. I'd have to kind of put them at a longer distance and see. It looks like it's a little bit more focused there in the middle. But again, the Streamlight, you guys can take a look at that wide spill. And then here's the Inforce. We moved into our garage, so if there's a little bit of an echo in my voice, I apologize for that, but we're gonna hit the light here and illuminate that corner. That corner there is approximately 10 or 15 feet away from where we're at. And I can tell you, it's fully illuminated. If anything was there, I'd be able to identify it very easily, i.e. say inside a home, someone was 10 to 15 feet away and they had something in their hands, you'd be able to very easily positive ID if it's a gun or, you know, a candy bar or whatever. So you can see there. Also note the spill pattern here. So I'm going to point this literally at the ground. So the weapon light is pointed at the ground right in front of the camera right now, and it's still illuminating the majority of the garage here, which is something that's important to understand for weapon lights. People always say that if you have a weapon light, you have to point it at things to identify it. That's not always the case, as you guys can see here. I'll turn the light off again so you guys can see what it looks like in here with no light, because there's no light at all in the garage right now. And then back on, that's what it looks like. Now for beam comparison's sake, let's take a look here again at the TLR. This is the TLR1 800 lumen monster. You guys can see there's definitely a candela difference. That intensity in the middle, which is generally what candela is going to appear as, is definitely brighter here on the TLR1, but it's a little bit more floody here with the TLR7. Now we're looking at the Inforce APLc. Again, same distance, same lighting conditions, nothing's changed. You guys can sort of see those rings there. You see the hotspot, and then you see the secondary spill ring. Again, even if we point this one at the ground, you guys can still see some illumination up there at the ceiling. So that's what it looks like for the Inforce. And then again, here's the Streamlight TLR7. Getting into the details of the light, it's kind of a new design here from Streamlight, as we'll show you here in just a second. So basically, there's this back piece that you can see is bolted on here in a few different places, and there's actually like a rubberized coating of it. If you see my nail there, I'm kind of pushing it in. It temporarily will show the imprint. It goes away though over time. I'm guessing that's due to obviously protect it from impact, as well as give it some sort of weather sealing. This light is IPX7 rated, so that's pretty good for a light of this size compared to others in its class anyway. And you'll see up front here, this is all aluminum. So this is all an aluminum material up front, including the actual tensioning lever here, or screw, is some sort of metal. I would assume it's actually steel on the screw itself, but it goes into metal on metal, which I know a lot of people here do like. Now moving up front, the bezel here is unique in terms of its design. If you actually look at it, it looks like it's much more shallow than what you'd see here on the TLR1. And when you have it all the way rotated and closed down, that's when it will function. But if you actually rotate it a quarter turn, and you can actually feel it click, there's no way you guys are going to be able to hear this, but you can feel it. It's tactile right about there. It just clicked, and at that point, it's locked out. So when I'm hitting the buttons here, nothing happens. So let's get into that function actually real quick. So from the factory, it ships in just the high only mode. So it's going to give you those 500 lumens. And that's it. And the factory strobe is disabled. So the way to actually set that is to tap either one of the buttons here 9 times, and then on the 10th time, hold it in, and that will give you the option for strobe. So I already did that just to test it out, obviously, and there we have our constant on. And if you want strobe, just press it real quick twice and you'll get strobe until you press it to disable it. Now, in terms of just general function, if you press and hold, it'll give you temporary, and as soon as you let off, it will let off. And then if you want to actually have a constant on, just press and let it go whenever you want it to go off. Just click the off button. This one here will give you 1.5 hours of runtime, at least according to Streamlight. I actually haven't tested that out yet because the light is still relatively new to me. It does come with a battery, and to change the battery out, you're just going to turn the bezel here and unscrew it. You'll note that there is an O-ring on there. So again, just for that IPX7 weather sealment rating there. And it does run on a CR123A battery. It does come with it as well. That's huge for a lot of people, myself included. A lot of folks don't like the CR2s that some of the other micro flashlights out there come with. So it runs on your standard CR123A, and that one there is going to give you some juice, which certainly is nice. And to close it back up, really simple. I should also note that the battery does face towards the rear of the gun. The positive connection is towards the rear, as you would mount it on the pistol. And that's it, and you're back in business. Here we have the 3 lights that we compared the beam patterns to. Of course, the Streamlight, the Inforce APLc, and then the Streamlight TLR1 HL model. So you guys can see there, that's how they compare from the top, but even from the side, size-wise, this one's pretty competitive with just about any of them. The Inforce has a little bit longer paddles, so it's going to make it look longer, but on the gun, it's pretty much the same in terms of how it's mounted. And you guys can see the TLR1's just much larger, both in terms of height and, of course, width, because it runs 2 batteries. Because mine was sent out to me early, I don't know what the actual packaging is going to look like, so I can't tell you that. However, I'll tell you it does ship with this thing here. And basically all of these little inserts are actually attached to this when they first come in the box. I just pulled a few off just to test them out on different guns. But basically it ships with the universal insert, which is what we have here. That will work well on most guns. So your Glocks, most 1913s, it'll work well. However, I just kind of want to give you an example of why you might want to switch out to a 1913. So here we have our SIG P229. And again, we have the universal insert on there, and I'm going to show you something real quick like. So we'll put that, if I can, there you go, on there. And what you'll note is that there's a little bit of forward play, if you can see that, and it's very, very close here to the actual trigger guard. So on this one, it works totally fine, and I would feel comfortable running this. However, some guns, what you're going to see is that when you actually mount it on there, due to the position of the rail up front, you'll hit the trigger guard. So it really just depends on the gun, obviously, because the rails here, as you guys can see, we'll just kind of line them up here. So this is the 1913-4, and where that slot is where the screw goes in. So that moves the rail back. And you guys can see this one here is the Universal 2. It's just a little bit further back. Again, that's to move the light a little bit forward against the trigger guard. So every gun's kind of different. It gives you a ton of different configurations though here. And we'll show you how to take that off real quick and swap them out. So what you're going to do is tighten your screw down here, and you guys can see that little clip. Anybody who's familiar with the Streamlight TLR-7 and how that system works will be familiar with this one, because it's really pretty much the same. So they give you this little tool, and basically you just push up like so. If I can do it here on camera. Oh, I had it. And it popped off on me. All right, hold on. It's always more fun when the camera's rolling. You're just going to line that thing up there and then push like so. You can see there it pops off. At this point, you're going to back this screw off. And you'll see it is under spring tension there. Pull that out. Your insert will come out. And I'm literally just going to try one here on camera. There you go. And we'll see how it works with that 1913. So for instance, this is the 1913-4. I actually haven't tried this one yet, so we're about to find out if it actually helps in any way in terms of the mounting there on the SIG. It might not. It might not be the right one for it. There's a list of guns that Streamlight has put out that this is compatible with, and I'll run that up here on the screen. Now, they say that there's a lot more that it is compatible with. They just haven't tested it, again, as of the making of this video. So we're going to put that little holder back in there, or retention tab, push down like so, and now it's back on. I'm going to back it off and see if it'll mount up here on the 229. Again, we're all finding this out together just to kind of see. Yep, actually it mounts up, and I don't know if it's really easy to see there on the camera, but it does give you a little bit tighter fit. And again, you would just tighten this down, and I will tell you, it does work. You can obviously use a screwdriver if you want. However, the case of a 9mm round, the rim fits it perfectly. So you can tighten that down, and you don't want to over tighten these things, guys. Just sort of snug it up. A couple other points to touch on before we finish the review out. Number one is going to be price. So price point on this, I don't know for sure on the street, because again, they haven't actually been released as I'm recording this, but the MSRP is going to be $215. So I would expect $199-ish street price, at least as of right now. And that sort of puts it in the category of like the Surefire XC1 in terms of concealed carry lights price wise. There's definitely some ones that are priced a little bit less, like the Inforce APLc that we showed, and like Olight makes one that we reviewed here in the past that's a little bit cheaper as well. So price wise, it's a little bit on the higher end for concealed carry type lights. However, I wouldn't personally limit this to a concealed carry type light. The reason I say that is 500 lumens of output with the beam pattern that we saw out there earlier. Really, I mean, shoot, 4 years ago, that was on the higher end of the spectrum for like duty type lights on the market on the planet. So, you know, the technology keeps advancing, which is awesome for all of us, but it's still got good output. 500 lumens with that nice balanced beam pattern is really good for a lot of things indoors, which most folks are going to be using their pistols for, or at close type ranges, again, pistol type ranges. So I think it would be just fine on a home defense gun. Of course, you can go with some of the Lumen monsters that we talked about. The Streamlight TLR-1 HL is a great example, but it would be fine, and I wouldn't have any problem personally with the output if it was all I had to do both a carry and home defense type role. You could also mount it on a rifle. I'm sure folks are going to be doing it. So you could do it with that 1913 rail option. So that's that. Weight wise, I think it came in at 2.5 ounces with a battery on my scale. Either way, I'll roll in a picture so you guys can see that. So weight wise, it's not a ton, especially having that aluminum body, which is nice. And really, all in all, we've had no problems with it. That said, I haven't had a ton of rounds with it like I typically do. So just take that with a grain of salt. I will definitely update things rather on Instagram, Facebook as this goes along. When I pick up a holster for it, I'll give you some higher round count data and stuff like that. So definitely check me out on Instagram and Facebook if you guys aren't following me there. But we'll wrap the video up with that. As always, guys, I appreciate you watching. If you're new to the channel and you just found this through a Google search, welcome. This is the type of video we typically do, again, just with more experience. But production-wise, this is pretty much how it generally rolls. So if you like what you saw, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you guys have questions, you can ask those down below in the comment section. However, the best way to get a hold of me these days is over on my Facebook page. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Those of you that just subscribed or are already subscribed, thank you very much. And I hope to see all of you in the next video.